Hey class, we're going to talk today about adjectives. So you should have your pencil and you need two different handouts. The first one being this word storm paper that looks like this, and the second one being this chart with the different types of adjectives on it. So set this one aside for now, and the one you need to begin with is the word storm. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to time you, you have exactly 3 minutes, and what I'd like for you to do is write down as many adjectives as you can think of, and you're going to categorize them according to the amount of syllables that they have in them. So for example, you could use the word tall to describe someone, and tall has 1 syllable, so it's going to go right here in this 1 syllable box. You could also use the word boring to describe some books that you don't enjoy reading. So boring has 2 syllables, so we would put that here. If we wanted to do, the way that you might feel after you trip and fall in the hallway, something that I may have done a couple of times, that word would be embarrassed. So embarrassed, that has 3 syllables. So I think you kind of get the picture. So what I'm going to do is give you some time. And I want you to think of any words at all that are out there that could describe, colors, height, weight, size. Just look around the room. Think about anything that's an object that you could describe, and it's probably going to be an adjective. So you have 3 minutes. Go ahead and get started. Fill this in as much as possible. Go. All right, so you have the end of the 3 minutes now, and you should have a whole lot of adjectives added to your paper. So the point of doing that was just simply to kind of brainstorm, to think about, okay, what's an adjective, what's not an adjective, do I know any? And so we're going to work with what you wrote down to kind of talk about the different types of adjectives, because we always just think about, okay, an adjective is something that describes a noun, it modifies a noun or pronoun. It does, but there are different degrees of them. So an adjective is just the basic word. This is just basically something that describes a noun or a pronoun. Now, when you start going up a degree, you have your comparative adjectives. And then when you really start comparing, when you kind of have a contest, and this is like the winner of the contest, you have a superlative adjective. And so what I'm going to do is list some of these here, and you're just going to kind of follow along with me. And we're going to talk about how we make them comparative and how we make them superlative. So we'll just start with adjectives that are 1 syllable first, because it really does matter how many syllables are in each word. So if you look down at the bottom of the page, you should see the rules for using most of the adjectives. And again, if you look at that, you see that it says these are the rules most of the time, but there are some rule breakers. Just like we have kids in class who pay attention, come to school every day, try to learn, do their work, follow what the teacher says, we have a couple of kids every now and then who just choose to not do the right thing. There are rule breakers. Adjectives are the same way. Okay, so if you have an adjective that is 1 syllable almost all the time, again, I'm not saying all the time, but almost all the time, if it is a comparative adjective, you're going to add "er" to the last part of it. That's called a suffix. You should be familiar with those. If you are going to then turn that adjective into a superlative form, you're going to add "est" as the suffix to that word. Let's do a couple of examples together. So you might have the word tall, which is a 1 syllable adjective. We could describe, okay, well, I'm pretty tall. But then what if someone walks into the room and they're 5'9", I'm 5'8", well, they're taller. So we would add that "er" to the end. And then if we had somebody else who walked into the room, well, they're taller than me, they're taller than you, they are the tallest. So that's how you would do that. So let's do a few other 1 syllable words. What about nice? Say, my teacher, Mrs. Laws, is very, very nice. Thanks, appreciate that compliment. All right, so nice is a regular adjective. It has how many syllables? 1, that's right. Okay, so what do we do with a comparative adjective that has 1 syllable? You look back down here at the bottom and you see, oh, okay, most of the times I'm going to add "er." Does it sound okay to say, Mrs. Laws is nice, but maybe Mrs. Farrell is nicer? Okay, so with this one, you don't really have to add the "er." It already ends in an E, so in that case, you just add the "r." Okay, and then we're going to take it to the superlative level. So Mrs. Laws is nice, Mrs. Farrell is nicer, but maybe Coach Cooper is the nicest of them all. So same thing, it already ends in an E, so we just need to add the ST. All right, what about mad? Let's say my little brother really made me mad last night. Okay, so if we follow that same rule and we add ER, we're going to have this word. Kind of looks like mater. Okay, we're not talking about cars, and so in that case, we want to go ahead. If it has a vowel and then ends in a consonant, you're going to double up on that consonant most of the time. Notice that tall already had the double consonant, so we didn't have to worry about that. But with mad, for it to sound appropriate, we want to go ahead and add that extra D too before you add the suffix. Okay, same thing for this. So my little brother made me mad, but my sister made me even madder. And then, oh my gosh, my cousin came into the room and he made me the maddest of everybody. So keep that extra D. And then, oh, not madder, just kidding. Maddest. All right, so that's the rule for adding suffixes for comparative and superlative adjectives that begin or just simply have one syllable. What I'd like you to do now is to go ahead and see at your table or with, just by yourself if you're not at a table, see if you can come up with 3 other adjectives that are one syllable that follow this regular rule of adding and est. So go ahead and take a minute and see if you can do that right now. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. So the next one we're going to look at is those adjectives that have 2 syllables. And this is going to be the rule for those syllables that end in Y, LY, ER, OR, or OW. You're going to add and est to those particular adjectives. So, for example, you can have a word like boring. Just go ahead and write that one down. Boring. Okay, so you're going to look to see what the ending of it is. It's ing. If you look right here, you'll see, okay, you know what? ing does not follow this rule. So you don't add and est. Instead, any other ending. You're going to add more than most. It would sound kind of strange if you said, well, this class is boring, but my other class is boringer. It just doesn't work right. So instead, you're going to say more boring and most boring. Okay, another 2-syllable word would be simple. Like this assignment is simple, 2 syllables. Okay, so would we say simpler, simplest, or more simple, more simplest? Wait, neither one of those sound good. All right, look at the ending. So PLE. Okay, it doesn't follow this. So we're going to have to go with this one. Any other ending, we're going to add more and most. So this assignment was more simple, and that assignment was the most simple. What about hungry? I'm definitely hungry right now. Supper sounds good. So what about this one? Again, what do? If it's 2 syllables, you're going to have to look at the last part of the word. So this is GRY. Look down here. It ends in a Y. So for this one, we're going to add and est. So if you're going through this, you're probably going to go ahead and do it. Oh, hungrier. That just doesn't look right. All right, our rule for this one is if you're going to add a suffix to a word that ends in Y, you have to change the Y to an I before you add the ER or the EST. So change that thing now. Change the Y to an I. So then you have hungrier and hungriest. Okay, same thing as before. I'd like you to take a few minutes and see if you can come up with 3 more adjectives. Use those off of your word storm that you did a few minutes ago and see if you can decide, does it need to have est, or does it have more and most? All right, jumping on down here, let's look at the words that are adjectives that have 3 syllables or more. And our rule right here says if it's 3 syllables or more, you're going to add more and add most. That's really your only option. So So as far as that goes, you pretty much, if it's a long word, it's going to have more and most, I would say 99% of the time. So we can have words such as delicious. Like that cake my mom baked me for my birthday was delicious. But the cake I had last year was even more delicious. And the one I'm going to have next year, I'm thinking it is going to be the most delicious of them all. How do I know that delicious has 3 or more syllables? Delicious. 3, right there, okay? 3 syllables or more, you're going to need to add more in almost all the time. All right, what about a word like melancholy? That's a fantastic way to say I'm feeling very sad today. Melancholy. Would you say was melancholy yesterday, but I'm melancholier today? Not unless you want to sound dumb. Let's try more melancholy and most melancholy. All right, take a few minutes, and for the last one, I'd like you to come up with 2 more adjectives that have 3 syllables or more. See if you can outdo yourself. Come up with a 4 or 5 syllable adjective. I'll be really impressed. And go ahead and decide how to make it comparative and superlative. So do that right now. Okay, there at the very bottom of the page, we still have a little bit more left of your chart. But notice that we've already gone through all of the rules. Right here, where we said that there are some rule breakers, just kind of draw yourself a little arrow because we're going to put some of those rule breakers at the bottom. These are ones that simply do not follow your typical rules. They're just ones that kind of like black sheep of the family. They just kind of stand out. They do their own thing. They don't follow the rules because they just don't care. So some of those are going to be words like some. So I could say that I have some candy, but you have summer candy. You have some more candy. No, you have, what do you have? You have more, just more. I have some, you have more, and then that kid over there, he has the most. What about good? Don't you tell me that it's gooder. That's not a word. So, I'm always good in class, but my friend over here, my friend is better than me. And then that girl across the room, she acts the best. What about fun? It's not funner. More fun. And most fun. And then bad. I got a bad grade on that test, but he got a worse grade. And then that guy, he got the worst grade of everybody. Okay, so those are the basic rules for adjectives, how to make them comparative, how to make them superlative. So I want this glued into your composition book, and we're going to be using this a whole lot more in class. So until next time, be looking over these words, see if you can add some more adjectives to it. Peace out.